Two of the most important topics of adult conversation when the regens were in their formative ages, that is, between about 11 and 15, were unquestionably the global economy and the environment. Those two themes made indelible impressions on this young generation. From an economic standpoint, we were talking about the recession. In the United States, we were talking about a mortgage crisis. Here in Europe, we were concerned about countries defaulting on debt loads. Lots of economic news peppering the headlines everywhere. From an environmental perspective, we read those little kids' storybooks about penguins that were on ice caps that were melting. They've been bombarded from the earliest ages with the idea that our environment is in peril, and their school curriculum has taken that forward. I found most of them know more about water shortages and carbon emissions than probably you or I do. So how have those two things shaped who they are and how they think about things going forward? I've found that it's created what I call a sense of the finite. This is a group of individuals whose primary mental model of the world is that we live in a world where things are limited. There's not an infinite amount of money, of energy, of water, and so caring for what we have, making the best of it, using resources wisely is the number one characteristic that I find in this fascinating generation. What it means in terms of their actual habits and behaviors are that many of them take a very conservative approach to finances. These guys are savers. In surveys that I've conducted with 13, 14, and 15-year-olds, a significant percentage, well over half, are saving money and deferring specific purchases, whether a bicycle or some other good that they hope to someday be able to purchase. So a very different way of dealing with things than perhaps our more immediate and impulse-oriented previous generations. They also are very reluctant to incur debt. Many of them view financial institutions with great skepticism, and being committed to pay back money to a financial institution feels like a really scary idea to a lot in this generation. They don't want to own credit cards, they'd prefer debit cards, and some of them even say they never plan to get a mortgage, a significant proportion. From an environmental perspective, they're committed to making a difference. 3/4 say that environmental concerns rank higher on their list as things to worry about than war or terrorism, drugs, disease. They're right up there at the top of the list. When we look at both what they care about today and what their future concerns are, these two themes, the economy and the environment, poverty, pollution, all play out as very important things that this generation feels it will have to deal with in years ahead. Now, from a business perspective, this has a number of ramifications for you. First of all, any of you who have business models that are dependent on consumer credit need to rethink now how people can access your goods over the long term, because these individuals do not want to incur debt. From an environmental perspective, you need to be prepared for them to ask tough questions when they come on board as an employee about your sustainability practices, for example. So get your sustainability programs in order now and be prepared to answer those questions in ways that will attract the best and the brightest to your organization. Finite limits, fiscal conservatism, taking care of the resources. Those will be key themes for the regeneration over the years ahead.